At family meeting, I said, I can't wait for our vacation. Then my dad replied with a laugh, it's only for family without you. They all laughed loudly. I just nodded and left. 5 days later, my mom tried to withdraw $5,000, but then I blocked the card and wrote, pay without me. Panic ensued. I need to get this off my chest because what happened last week has completely changed my relationship with my family forever. 26, female, and I've spent the last 5 years thinking I was finally building a real relationship with my parents and siblings after being the family scapegoat my entire childhood. Turns out I was just their ATM with legs. Let me give you some background first. Growing up, I was always the odd one out in my family. My parents, David and Linda, both in their early 60s now, have always been obsessed with appearances and social status. My older sister Monica, 29, and younger brother Jake, 24, were the golden children who could do no wrong. Monica was the popular cheerleader who married her high school sweetheart right after college, and Jake was the star athlete who got a full scholarship to play football. Then there was me. I was the quiet kid who preferred books to parties, who got straight A's, but somehow that was never as impressive as Monica's social achievements or Jake's sports trophies. I remember my parents missing my honor roll ceremonies because they conflicted with Jake's games, or how they'd spend thousands on Monica's pageant dresses while telling me I didn't need new clothes because you're just going to the library anyway. I have vivid memories of sitting alone at my 8th grade science fair, watching other kids' parents take pictures and celebrate their children's projects, while mine were at Jake's baseball tournament 2 hours away. My project on renewable energy sources won first place, but I had to carry the trophy home by myself on the bus. When I showed it to my parents that night, Dad barely looked up from Jake's game highlights on his phone. That's nice, honey, Mom said absently while doing Monica's laundry. Put it on your dresser. The patterns were everywhere, once you knew to look for them. Monica got a brand new car for her 16th birthday, a red Honda Civic that she immediately covered in cheerleader stickers. Jake got Dad's old truck when he turned 16, freshly detailed and with new tires. When my birthday came around, they handed me a bus pass and told me public transportation would build character. Monica's room was redecorated twice during high school because she kept changing her mind about the color scheme. Jake's room got a complete makeover when he made varsity football, complete with a new sound system and a mini fridge. My room stayed exactly the same from age 10 until I moved out. Same faded pink walls I'd outgrown, same hand-me-down furniture from garage sales. The Christmas mornings were particularly brutal. Monica and Jake would have piles of presents, name-brand clothes, electronics, games, jewelry. I'd get a few books from the discount bin and maybe a generic sweater. One year I counted. Monica got 17 presents, Jake got 15, and I got 4. When I pointed this out, Mom said, it's not about the number, it's about the thought that counts. But apparently the thought that counted was that I didn't count, but it got worse. During my graduation speech, I looked out into the audience hoping to see my family cheering for me. They were there, technically, but Dad was on his phone the entire time and Mom was whispering to Monica about something. Jake had earbuds in and was clearly not listening. After the ceremony, while other families were taking photos and celebrating, mine was already talking about leaving because they wanted to beat traffic. We didn't go out to dinner. We didn't celebrate. We just went home, and they immediately started making plans for Jake's graduation party the following year. College was my escape. I got a full academic scholarship to study computer science at a state school about 3 hours away. For the first time in my life, I was around people who valued intelligence and hard work. I thrived there, made real friends, and discovered I had a talent for coding that could actually make me money. While my siblings were living it up on my parents' dime, Monica got her dream wedding funded entirely by them. Jake had his college expenses covered despite his scholarship. I was working part-time jobs and coding freelance projects to pay for anything my scholarship didn't cover. Not once did my parents offer to help with my living expenses, textbooks, or even basic necessities. After graduation, I landed a job at a tech startup that paid well, really well. I started as a junior developer making $45,000 a year, which was more than I'd ever dreamed of having. But I was good at my job, really good. I had a natural talent for solving complex coding problems, and I worked harder than anyone else in the office. Within 6 months, I got my first promotion. Within a year, I was leading a small team. By the end of my second year, I was making $80,000 and had stock options that were actually worth something. The startup got acquired by a larger tech company during my third year, and my stock options suddenly became very valuable. Combined with my new salary of $120,000, I was making more money than both my parents combined. For someone who'd grown up being told she wasn't worth investing in, it was surreal. But here's where I made my biggest mistake. I started helping them financially. It started small. Dad's truck needed repairs, and they were a little short that month, $500. Just until the next paycheck, he promised. You know I'm good for it. Then Monica's husband lost his job, and they couldn't make their mortgage payment, $2,000. We'll pay you back as soon as he finds something new, she swore, tears in her eyes. Jake needed money for a security deposit on an apartment after college, $1,500. I'll pay you back in 6 months when I get my first bonus, he assured me. The requests kept coming. Mom's car needed new tires, $800. Monica's kids needed dental work not covered by insurance, $1,200. Dad's blood pressure medication wasn't covered under their new insurance plan, $300 a month. Jake's car got repossessed, and he needed money for a down payment on a used one, $2,500. Every time, they promised to pay me back. Every time, they had an excuse for why they couldn't. Dad's hours got cut at work. Monica's husband's new job paid less than his old one. Jake's commission-based job wasn't bringing in as much as expected. Mom needed surgery, and they had to pay the deductible. But they started treating me differently. Suddenly, I was invited to family dinners again. They'd call me just to check in. A mom would ask about my day at work, though her questions were always followed by casual mentions of their latest financial struggles. Dad would actually listen when I talked, nodding along before mentioning that the utility bill was higher than expected that month. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. I was so desperate for their acceptance that I didn't see what was really happening. The phone calls weren't about caring for me. They were fishing expeditions to gauge my mood and financial situation before making their next request. The family dinners weren't about including me. They were opportunities to remind me how much they were struggling and how much I could help. The interest in my work wasn't about being proud of my success. It was about calculating how much I could afford to give them. I wasn't their daughter. I was their emergency fund. The arrangement became more formal about 2 years ago when my parents were facing foreclosure on their house. They'd refinanced multiple times and were drowning in debt. They came to me crying, begging for help, saying they'd lose everything. Like an idiot, I gave them $40,000 for a down payment on a smaller house and co-signed their mortgage. But here's the crucial part. I insisted on having access to the household checking account to make sure the mortgage payments were being made on time. I didn't want to lose my own credit over their irresponsibility. So I became the family CFO, basically. All their major expenses went through the account I monitored. Mortgage, car payments, insurance, utilities. They kept some spending money in their own accounts, but the big stuff was my responsibility. They sold their old house, and I made sure the proceeds went toward paying down debt and building a small emergency fund. My siblings knew about this arrangement, obviously. Monica would text me when she needed help with her kids' daycare costs. Jake would call when his car needed work. And I helped, every single time, because I thought this was what families did for each other. I thought I was finally part of the family. The vacation conversation happened 3 weeks ago at our monthly family dinner. These dinners were something my mom instituted after I started helping them financially. Family time is so important, she'd say, conveniently forgetting that family time hadn't been important for the first 24 years of my life. We were sitting around their dining room table, the one I'd helped them buy for their new house, when Dad started talking about summer vacation plans. He was excited, gesturing with his hands the way he does when he's had a couple of beers. So Linda and I have been talking, and we want to do something special this year. A real family vacation. We're thinking a week in the Outer Banks. We found this amazing house that sleeps 8 people, right on the beach. Monica perked up immediately. Oh my God, yes, the kids would love that. When were you thinking? July, Mom chimed in. Right after Jake's birthday. We could make it a celebration for him too. Jake was grinning. That sounds awesome. I've never been to the Outer Banks. I felt this warm feeling spreading through my chest. A family vacation. Together. I'd never been included in anything like this before. Their previous vacations had always been just the 4 of us. My parents and my 2 siblings. I'd hear about them afterward through social media posts and casual mentions. I can't wait, I said, probably sounding more eager than I meant to. This is going to be so much fun. Do you want me to help look at rental houses? I'm pretty good at finding deals online. That's when it happened. Dad looked at me with this confused expression, like I just said something completely ridiculous. Then he started laughing. Not a happy laugh, a mean one. It's only for family without you, he said, still chuckling like he'd made the funniest joke in the world. The table erupted. Monica giggled behind her hand. Jake nearly choked on his beer from laughing so hard. Even Mom was smiling, though she tried to hide it behind her napkin. I sat there feeling like I'd been slapped. The warm feeling in my chest turned ice cold. I don't understand, I managed to say. Dad wiped his eyes like he'd been laughing so hard he was crying. Sweetheart, this is for our real family. Monica, Jake, Linda, and me. Plus Monica's kids, of course. We don't have room for everyone. The house sleeps 8, I said quietly. You just said that. Right. Me and your mother, Monica and her husband. Their 2 kids, and Jake. That's 7 people. Perfect fit. But what about me? Jake jumped in, still grinning. Come on, sis. You've got your own life. You don't need to tag along on family trips. Besides, someone needs to keep an eye on things here. Monica nodded in agreement. You understand, right? It's just different when you're there. You don't really mesh with the family dynamic. I looked around the table at these people I'd been supporting financially for years. My parents, who I'd saved from foreclosure. My sister, whose mortgage I'd helped with multiple times. My brother, whose entire post-college life I'd subsidized. I mesh just fine when you need money, I said. The laughter stopped. Dad's expression hardened. That's different. That's just you helping out family. This is about spending quality time together. Right, I said, nodding slowly. Quality time. Got it. I stood up, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. Where are you going? Mom called after me. We haven't had dessert yet. Enjoy your family time, I said, without turning around. I drove home in a daze, their laughter still echoing in my ears. It wasn't just that they'd excluded me from the vacation, it was how they'd done it. The casual cruelty. The assumption that I'd just accept being treated like an outsider in my own family. The way they all found it hilarious that I'd thought I was included. I spent the next few days thinking about everything. Really thinking. About all the times I'd felt grateful just to be acknowledged by them. All the money I'd given them over the years. All the times I'd told myself that this was normal. That families help each other. But families don't exclude each other from vacations and then laugh about it. Families don't treat one member like a walking ATM. Families don't make one person feel like they should be grateful for basic respect. I realized I'd been buying their love, and they'd been perfectly happy to sell it to me. That's when I started planning. I didn't do anything dramatic at first. I just stopped. Stopped offering to help with expenses. Stopped asking how they were doing financially. Stopped volunteering to cover things when they mentioned money problems. The vacation came up in our family group chat a few times over the next week. Photos of the beach house they'd rented. Discussions about what activities they wanted to do. Everyone was so excited. Everyone except me because I wasn't invited. Then, 5 days after the dinner, I got a notification on my phone that made my blood boil. My mom had tried to withdraw $5,000 from the household account. $5,000. I logged into the account to see what the withdrawal was for. And there it was. Beach house rental deposit. They were using my money to pay for the vacation I wasn't invited to. The audacity was breathtaking. They'd excluded me from their family-only trip, laughed about it in my face, and then tried to use my financial contributions to pay for it. I sat there staring at my phone screen for a long time. Then I opened my banking app and froze the account. Just like that. One click, and their access to my money was gone. Then I sent a message to the account memo function where they'd see it the next time they logged in. Pay without me. My phone started ringing about an hour later. Honey, there seems to be some kind of problem with the bank account, Mom said when I answered. Her voice had that fake sweet tone she used when she wanted something. I was trying to transfer money for the vacation deposit and it's not working. That's strange, I said, my voice perfectly calm. I was actually enjoying this. What kind of problem? It's saying the account is frozen. There must be some kind of error. Can you call them and get it sorted out? We need to get this deposit in today or we'll lose the house. Oh, that's not an error, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. I froze it. Silence. Complete, total silence. I could picture her face, the way her mouth probably dropped open, the confusion turning to panic. You... what? Her voice was barely a whisper. I froze the account. If this vacation is for family only, without me, then I think you should pay for it without me too. Makes sense, right? I could hear her breathing getting faster. Sweetheart, this is ridiculous. We need that money for the deposit. The rental agency requires it by tomorrow, or we lose the house. This isn't a joke. You're right. It's not a joke. Just like excluding me from the vacation wasn't a joke, even though everyone seemed to find it hilarious. That sounds like a problem for the family, I said, emphasizing the word family just like Dad had. I'm not family, remember? At least not vacation family. Don't be dramatic. You know what your father meant. It's just, it's easier with just us. Less complicated. You understand, right? You've always been so independent. Less complicated, I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. Is it less complicated when you need money? Because it seems like I become very family-oriented when there are bills to pay. Funny how that works. That's completely different. Her voice was getting shrill now. How? Explain to me how it's different. I'm genuinely curious about the logic here. Another silence. Longer this time. I could practically hear the wheels turning in her head, trying to find an explanation that didn't make her sound like a hypocrite. We'll talk about this when everyone calms down, she finally said, but I could hear the defeat in her voice. I'm perfectly calm, I said cheerfully. Are you? You sound a little stressed. Maybe you should take a vacation to relax. Oh, wait. She hung up. 20 minutes later, Dad called. What the hell do you think you're doing? He started, no preamble. I'm learning about family dynamics, I said. It's fascinating stuff. Don't get smart with me. Unfreeze that account right now. I don't think I will. This is our money. Really? Which one of us has been making the deposits for the last 2 years? That's helping family. That's what good children do. Good children, I said slowly. Tell me, Dad, do good parents exclude their children from family vacations and then laugh about it? You're being overdramatic. It's just one vacation. You're right. It is just one vacation. So it shouldn't be hard to pay for it yourselves. We don't have $5,000 just sitting around. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't family enough to include. He was quiet for a moment. Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Less angry, more calculating. Look, we can work this out. Maybe we can find a bigger house, include you. How generous, I said. But I think I'll pass. I've got my own vacation plans now. What vacation plans? The kind that don't include people who think I'm not family. I hung up and immediately started browsing travel websites. If they wanted to take a family vacation without me, fine. I'd take a vacation without them. A better one. Within an hour, I'd booked myself a 10-day trip to Italy. First-class flights, luxury hotels, private tours, the works. It cost more than their entire beach house rental, but I could afford it. After all, I wouldn't be subsidizing anyone else's vacation this year. The family group chat exploded over the next few hours. Everyone suddenly had opinions about my unreasonable behavior. Monica sent me a long text about how I was being petty and hurting the kids, who were so excited about the beach trip. Jake called me selfish and said I was ruining everyone's summer. But nobody addressed the fundamental issue. They'd excluded me and then expected me to pay for it. The next day, Mom showed up at my apartment. I could see her through the peephole, standing in the hallway looking stressed and tired. Part of me felt bad for her. Part of me remembered every time she'd chosen my siblings over me. I opened the door. We need to talk, she said. Do we? Please. Can I come in? I stepped aside and let her into my living room. She looked around at my apartment, the one I'd furnished with my own money, decorated with my own taste, built into a home that was entirely mine. This is nice, she said quietly. I don't think I've ever really looked around before. You've never been here before, I pointed out. She flinched. That's not... We've been busy. For 2 years? She sat down on my couch without being invited. Honey, I think there's been a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? About the vacation. We didn't mean to hurt your feelings. You didn't mean to exclude me from a family vacation and then laugh when I thought I was included? It wasn't like that. What was it like? She struggled for words. It's just, Monica's kids are so young, and Jake is still figuring out his life, and your father and I thought it would be nice to have some time with just them. And what am I? You're independent, successful. You don't need us the way they do. So, because I'm successful, I don't get to be part of the family? That's not what I said. It's what you meant. She was quiet for a long time. Then, will you unfreeze the account? No. We'll lose the deposit. We'll lose the whole vacation. That's unfortunate. The kids are so excited. Monica's already told them about the beach. Then Monica should figure out how to pay for it. She can't afford it. None of us can. That's why we need your help. And there it was. The truth. They needed my help with money, but they didn't want my presence. I was an ATM, not a daughter. Here's what I don't understand, I said. If you can't afford this vacation without my money, why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't anyone think, hey, Maybe we should invite the person who's paying for this. We didn't think of it that way. How did you think of it? We thought, we thought you'd be happy to help. You always are. I'm happy to help family, I said. But apparently I'm not family when it comes to actually enjoying the things I pay for. She started crying then. Real tears. Not the manipulative kind she used to use when I was a kid. We messed up, she said. I know we messed up, but we can fix this. We can include you. What was a pity invite? Because you need my money? No, because you're our daughter. When? I asked. When am I your daughter? When you need money. Because that seems to be the only time any of you remember I exist. That's not true. When was the last time one of you called me just to talk? Not because you needed something. Not because there was a family dinner I was expected to attend, but just because you wanted to hear my voice. She couldn't answer. When was the last time you asked about my life? My job? My friends? My hobbies? Anything about me that doesn't involve my bank account? Still nothing. When was the last time you said you were proud of me? Not grateful for my financial help, but actually proud of what I've accomplished? Her tears were coming harder now. I thought so, I said. We can change, she whispered. We can do better. Maybe you can, but I don't think I want to find out. What does that mean? I sat down across from her. It means I'm done. I'm done being your emergency fund. I'm done being the family member you only call when you need something. I'm done pretending that what we have is a normal family relationship. We're your family. Are you? Because families include each other. Families care about each other as people, not just as resources. Families don't laugh when someone feels excluded. So what are you saying? You're cutting us off completely? I'm saying I'm going to start treating you the way you treat me, as people who exist only when convenient. She cried for a few more minutes. I didn't comfort her. I'd spent too many years comforting people who wouldn't do the same for me. Finally, she wiped her eyes and looked at me. What would it take? For you to unfreeze the account? Nothing, I said. That account is closed. I'll pay the mortgage and utilities for 3 more months to give you time to figure out your finances. But after that, you're on your own. We can't afford the mortgage without your help. Then you should sell the house and find something you can afford. That house is our home. The house I saved from foreclosure by giving you $40,000? The house where I was told I'm not family enough for vacation inclusion? That house? She stared at me. Find a smaller place, I said. Get roommates. Ask Monica and Jake to help out. Figure it out like adults. This is all because of one comment about the vacation? This is because of 26 years of comments like that. The vacation was just the last one. She left soon after, promising that the family would make this right. I didn't believe her, but I was curious to see what they'd come up with. The answer was a group intervention. 2 days later, my entire family showed up at my apartment. All of them. Mom, Dad, Monica, her husband, even Jake. They stood in my hallway like some kind of twisted greeting committee. We need to talk, Dad announced. All of you? At once? How efficient. Can we come in? Monica asked. I don't think my living room is big enough for people who don't consider me family. Stop being dramatic, Jake said. This has gone far enough. Has it? Because from where I'm standing, it's just getting started. Dad pushed past me into my apartment. The others followed. So much for being invited in. They arranged themselves in my living room like they were staging an intervention, which I realized they were. We've been talking, Monica began, and we think you're overreacting. To what? To the vacation thing. It was just a misunderstanding. Really? What did I misunderstand? Dad was joking when he said it was family only, Jake said. You know how he is. He has a weird sense of humor. I looked at Dad. Were you joking? He looked uncomfortable. Maybe I could have phrased it better. That's not what I asked. Were you joking when you said the vacation was for family only without me? Long pause. No, but... So not a joke. A deliberate exclusion. We thought you'd be happier staying home, Mom said quickly. You're always so busy with work and beach vacations aren't really your thing. How would you know what my thing is? We know you, Monica said. Do you? What's my favorite color? Silence. What's my favorite food? More silence. When's my birthday? Jake started to answer, then stopped. October 15th, I said. Same day as yours, Jake. We're twins, remember? Though I guess I can understand why you'd forget, since you never acknowledge it. That's not fair, he said. What's not fair is finding out your family planned a vacation, excluded you, laughed about it, and then tried to use your money to pay for it. We weren't using your money, Dad protested. That's the household account, funded entirely by me for the last 2 years. You offered to help. I offered to help with necessities. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, not luxury vacations I'm not invited to. Monica's husband spoke up for the first time. Look, maybe we can compromise. What if we find a bigger house? Include everyone? And who's paying for this bigger house? He looked around at the others, confused. The account. The account I control because I'm the only one putting money into it. So you'd be paying for your own vacation, he said slowly. While they get to decide if I'm worthy of inclusion? How generous of them. The room was quiet for a moment. We want you there, Monica said softly. We really do. Since when? Since always. Then why wasn't I included in the planning? Why did I have to find out about it at dinner? Why did everyone think it was hilarious when I assumed I was invited? No good answers. Here's what I think happened, I continued. You all got so used to me being your financial backup that you forgot I was a person. You planned your perfect family vacation, and it never occurred to any of you to include me because you don't think of me as family. You think of me as a resource. That's not true, Mom protested, but her voice lacked conviction. When's the last time any of you invited me to something that didn't involve me paying for it? They looked at each other. When's the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? More silence. When's the last time you asked about my life, my interests, my goals, anything that wasn't related to money? Jake shifted uncomfortably. We've been meaning to. For how long? 2 years? 5 years? My entire adult life? We're here now, Dad said defensively. Because you need money. If that account hadn't been frozen, would any of you be here? Of course we would. When? Next month? Next year? When was this family bonding session supposed to happen if you didn't need me to unfreeze the account? No answer. That's what I thought. Monica started crying. We're sorry, okay? We're really, really sorry. We didn't realize. You didn't realize what? That I have feelings? That being excluded hurts? That paying for everything doesn't make me an employee? We know you're not an employee. Then start treating me like family instead of like a bank. What do you want from us? Dad asked, and I could hear the frustration in his voice. Nothing, I said. That's the point. I don't want anything from you anymore. So that's it? You're just going to cut us off forever because of one vacation? I'm going to cut you off because you've never treated me like I mattered. The vacation was just the moment I finally realized it. They tried for another hour to convince me to change my mind. They promised things would be different. They offered to cancel the vacation entirely. They suggested family therapy. But I was done. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn their love. And they taught me that love isn't something you can buy. It's something you either have or you don't. And they didn't have it for me. After they left, I finished booking my Italy trip. I added some excursions I'd been on the fence about. A cooking class in Tuscany. A private tour of the Vatican. A wine tasting in the Amalfi Coast. I was going to have the best vacation of my life, with people who were paid to be nice to me. At least they were honest about the transaction. The family kept trying to contact me over the next few weeks. Text messages, phone calls, even a few more surprise visits. Monica brought her kids once, obviously hoping I'd cave when I saw them. But using children as emotional manipulation just reinforced my decision. 3 weeks later, they lost the beach house deposit. They couldn't come up with the money on their own. Monica posted passive-aggressive social media updates about how some people don't understand the meaning of family. Jake left me a voicemail calling me selfish and saying I'd ruined everyone's summer. I was in Rome when the mortgage payment was due. I kept my promise and made sure it was paid, but I also sent a message to the family group chat. 2 more months, then you're on your own. The responses were immediate and panicked. Monica sent a string of crying emojis followed by, "How could you do this to us?" Jake called me heartless and said I was punishing innocent children for the actions of adults. Dad sent a long message about family loyalty and how disappointed he was in me. Mom tried calling 17 times in a row, but I was sitting in a sidewalk cafe in Trastevere, eating the best pasta of my life, and I realized something. I was happy. Actually happy. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about someone else's financial problems. I wasn't trying to earn anyone's approval. I wasn't walking on eggshells around people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. The Italy trip had been everything their beach vacation could never have been. I stayed in a boutique hotel in Rome with a view of the Spanish Steps. I took a cooking class in a Tuscan villa, where I learned to make fresh pasta from scratch with a grandmother who spoke no English, but somehow communicated more warmth and gestures than my family had in years. I toured the Vatican before it opened to the public, walking through the Sistine Chapel in complete silence with just 5 other people. In Florence, I commissioned a custom leather bag from an artisan who had been making bags for 40 years. In Venice, I took a private gondola ride at sunset and ate gelato while watching the light dance on the canal water. I visited vineyards in Chianti, where the owners treated me like family, the real kind of family, where you're welcomed and valued just for being there. Every day brought something new and beautiful. I hiked through the Cinque Terre, stopping in each village to try the local specialties. I spent an entire afternoon in the Uffizi Gallery, studying paintings I'd only seen in books. I learned basic Italian from patient waiters and shop owners who smiled when I butchered their language. And not once, did anyone make me feel like I didn't belong. Not once did someone laugh when I assumed I was included. Not once did someone treat me like my presence was an inconvenience or my exclusion was amusing. I was just happy. When I got back from Italy, there was a stack of mail waiting for me. Bills, junk mail, and a handwritten letter from my mom. The envelope was thick, like she'd written multiple pages, and my address was written in her careful cursive handwriting. The letter was long and rambling, full of apologies and explanations and promises. She talked about how they'd always been proud of me, how they'd never meant to make me feel excluded, how they wanted to rebuild our relationship. She mentioned family therapy, suggested we could all sit down together and work through our issues. She even included photos from my childhood, me at various school events, graduation pictures, a few family photos where I was actually included. But buried in the middle was this line: "We've talked to a financial advisor, and he says we might be able to qualify for a loan modification if you co-sign again. It would really help us get back on our feet and show that you forgive us." I threw the letter away without finishing it. 2 months later, I stopped making their mortgage payments. They called me crying, begging, threatening. They said they'd lose the house. They said it was all my fault. They said I was destroying the family. But I'd learned something important. I wasn't responsible for their financial problems. I wasn't responsible for keeping the family together. I wasn't responsible for earning love that should have been freely given. They ended up selling the house and moving into a rental apartment. Monica and her family had to move in with them temporarily. Jake had to get a second job to help with expenses. And you know what? They figured it out. Turns out they could survive without my money after all. It wasn't easy for them, from what I heard through the family grapevine. The rental apartment was half the size of the house I'd helped them buy. And with Monica's family squeezed in there too, tensions were high. Jake had to take a job at a local restaurant in addition to his day job, working nights and weekends to help cover rent. Monica had to start working part-time at a daycare center, something she'd sworn she'd never do because she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Dad had to swallow his pride and ask his employer for overtime hours. Mom started selling crafts at a local farmer's market on weekends, something she'd done as a hobby, but now needed for income. Monica's husband finally found steady work, but it required a long commute and paid less than his previous job. The adjustment was hard on everyone. Monica complained on social media about how cramped the apartment was, how the kids had to share a room, how they couldn't afford the activities they used to enjoy. Jake posted passive-aggressive memes about family loyalty and how some people forget where they came from. Dad didn't post anything. He'd never been big on social media, but I heard from a cousin that he looked like he'd aged 10 years and 6 months. But here's the thing. They adapted. They learned to budget. They learned to prioritize needs over wants. They learned to work together as a family unit instead of relying on one person to solve all their problems. Monica's kids adjusted to their new school. Jake discovered he was actually good at restaurant management and got promoted to assistant manager. Mom's crafts started selling well enough that she could contribute meaningfully to the household income.